Hey, what's up, guys? King Q here, and today I'm going to be doing a full color grading workflow breakdown for you to help you improve your color grading. If you're new to color grading, if you've already been color grading, you just want to get that extra edge, I'm definitely here to help. This video is in collaboration with a company called Dehancer, which is a plugin that helps you to achieve cinematic looking visuals. Okay, it gives you film emulation, imprints, and all that good stuff. And there's also a lot of effects in there that are really awesome and looks like it was actually shot on film. So I find that Dehancer has the highest quality of these effects to make it look the most realistic. So I've been using Dehancer for about a month now, trying to learn the ins and outs of it, and I think I have a pretty good grasp on it. So that's why I want to share it with you guys today. So let's hop right in. So we are in DaVinci Resolve. I have 5 clips that I'm going to be grading, and you guys can follow along. So the first thing we're going to go over is color management. So copy this, and then we will make a new timeline. Okay, and we'll call this color grading. And then we're going to go into the format. We'll keep it at 1920 by 1080. We'll have it at 23.976. And then we'll come over to the color. And for color management, we're going to keep it the color science to DaVinci YRGB. And then timeline color space, we're going to put it at DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. And if you're on a MacBook, I highly recommend your output color space be Rec 709. If you're on a PC and your computer is calibrated to Rec 709 2.2 or 2.4, then select that. But for the color science on Macs, I highly recommend you use Rec 709A, so that way your blacks actually represent what you saw on the screen when you export it. Okay, so we're gonna hit create, and that's how we create a new project. Then I'm gonna paste those clips that I have here. Now, as you can see, these clips are bare bones. They don't have any color or anything added to them. So next we're gonna go into our color page, and what we're going to do to make everything streamlined is we're going to put all these clips into groups. Now, groups are really great. Let's say you were shooting on multiple different cameras, and when you're creating your color space transforms, if you were to put each clip that was shot on a different camera into a group, you can apply that color space transform to all the clips, so you don't have to redo it and keep doing it over and over again, which saves you a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the clips, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to add into a new group. I'll name that new group Sony A1 because I shot this footage on Sony A1. We'll click it. Now, as you can see on the bottom here, you have these chain links, and that tells you that these clips are in a group. Now that they're in a group, if you look up here, you have your pre-clip, you have your clip, you have your post-clip, and you have your timeline. So think of it as like a sandwich, okay? So your pre-clip is the top bun, your clip is the stuff that's in the middle, and your post-clip is stuff that's still in the middle but a little bit lower, and then your timeline is the bottom to close it all out, okay? So first we're gonna go into our pre-clip. And what I highly recommend you do is you create power grades. And what a power grade is um, it's a grade that you completed in a project that you can use on different projects. If you were to create a still up here, that would be a grade that you've completed in this project, but it's only available in this project. So the power grades are available in all your projects, so you can save time. So I already created a pre-clip, so I'll just middle button click that, and then it'll give us our pre-clip. So what we'll do is we'll come over to our effects panel, and we'll see in the input color space I set it to Sony S Gamut 3 Cine, and then my input gamma is S log 3. That's what I shot it in. And what I want to do is I want to take it from the S Cine 3, and I want to take it from S-Log 3 and bring it into a wider color space so there's more dynamic range. So what I did was I took it from S-Log 3 into DaVinci Wide Gamut, which is my output color space, and then my output gamma is DaVinci Intermediate. Okay. After that, I'll go over to my clip tab right up here, and I have a clip preset that I already made, and we'll go into this a little bit more so you can see. So in this one, I have my first node set to noise reduction. My second clip I have set to my second node I have set to white balance, and for the white balance node you want to come down, right click, come down to your gamma and click linear so you get a more true to life white balance adjustment. So it's like you're adjusting the white balance in camera. And then we'll have our exposure, our contrast. For the contrast, when you're shooting on Sony, you want to change your pivot down here to 0.336, and that'll give you your middle gray, and then you can add your contrast that way. For saturation, what you want to do is you want to right click, go down to color space, and then change it from to HSV, your HSV color space. And then you want to go into your channels and you want to disable channel 1 and disable channel 3, and then you'll control your saturation by using your primary's gain switch. So you'll just adjust the luminance values here, and that will add your saturation versus using the saturation slider. I feel like the color density is much more pleasant looking. Okay, so that's how I'll adjust my saturation. So after the saturation, we have a node for our color slice, so we can go in to the color slice and we can pick specific colors that we want to adjust and manipulate. After that, we have our hue versus saturation. We can come in here and we have our curves if we want to like adjust our curves, or we have our hue versus hue where we can change colors as well. I like the color slice because the color slice it deals more with your color density, so the colors are much more better pleasing to the eye. We also have our hue versus saturation. You can adjust your saturation, and then your hue versus luminance, how bright or how dark. So these are the three that I usually stay in: hue versus hue, hue versus sat, hue versus lum. Okay, after that I created some power windows, so I have an in and an out, and whatever window I make here, it'll control what's happening inside that window and whatever's happening outside. So I can just make one selection and then automatically adjust the outside of that selection. So that's a inside and an outside window. And then I also have 3 other windows here. Parallel nodes are really cool because what it does, it gives you an average. So all the changes that you make, it's just an average and it balances out the nodes. After that, we did 2 more parallel nodes, and we're using these parallel nodes to sharpen the image. So we have one sharpen, and then we have one for mid-tone detail. And the reason I have this in a parallel node, because like I said earlier, it gives you an average. So whenever you sharpen an image, sometimes it's a little bit too digital looking. So what I'll do is I'll create a parallel node, and then I'll come in and I'll lower the mid-tone detail just to give it like ease off that balance it out so it's not as sharp. And then I have a node for glow. Okay, after that we'll go into our post clip and we'll set that up. So in the post clip, what I have is a split tone. So I'll go into my effects, and what I'll do is I'll type in split tone, SPLIT, and I'll drag that on there like that. Okay, now in the split tone, I like to click this button right here, protect neutral. So this is going to protect their skin tones. So that way, like I'll show you an example. See, her skin tones are kind of changing color as well. Okay. And then for my CST post, so the way we set up this one is we have our input color space, DaVinci Wide Gamut, our input gamma, DaVinci Intermediate, and then our output color space is going to be Rec 709. And since we're on a Mac, we're going to have Rec 709A. We're also going to want to come down to tone mapping, and we're gonna click use custom max input, and we'll set this to DaVinci. You can have it at none, you can have it at saturation preservation, but I find that I like DaVinci the best. Okay, you can click this one on, but I don't really change anything in there. And then you want to make sure you have this apply forward OOTO in your CST post. Okay, now, here comes the fun part. This is where we get to add in our dehancer. And I like to add in my dehancer in multiple clips, because I'll show you why. So when you come in here, let's go down to the bottom, and then we will disable all tools. So everything is disabled. Now I use this first one for my film, and if you come up here and we go to film, I like the Kodak Vision 50D, so we'll try that one. We'll enable it, and you can see that it changes the color. Now sometimes the blacks are a little bit crushed in this one, so what I like to do is I like to bring down my total impact, the output, to about 60%, and that like eases it off, and then you can manipulate it how you want, so it's not too overpowering. And the reason I separate these nodes is because if I were to have my film in just my dehancer in one node and I lowered the output, it's going to lower the output on all of the inputs that I put in. So I want to separate my film look from my film print. And I also come into the film print right here, and then I like the Kodak 2383 print right here, and then I also lower that output to about 60%. Next, I create a node for my blacks, and what I'll do is I'll come into my log wheels, and then I'll lower my shadows to about -4, and as you see in her here, it just gives it a more darker color, and you can adjust that in your pre-clip if necessary. And lastly, we'll save that last node for another dehancer, and this will be just for the effects where you can add halation, bloom, film grain, stuff like that, and we'll go into all of that more in depth. Okay, so now that we have our workflow, there's one more tab, the timeline, and I don't really use this one because if you have any text, whatever effects you put in here is going to affect the entire timeline, so you just want to add it in on the clip. Okay, now let's set up our scopes. So the two scopes we're going to be using today is your parade and your vector scope. So if you come over here to these three little dots, you'll click here, and then you'll click 10-bit video, and you'll also click your data level scopes. And then for the vector scope, I'm going to use standard, and then 75 plus 100% targets, and then show labels. Okay, now for the display qualifier, I want to click that, and what that is it just, if you put your mouse on any part of the image, it's going to display it here on your scope. So you want to make sure display qualifier focus is clicked, and then low pass filter, I like to put that because it just cleans up the vector scopes for me a little bit. Okay, also my ratio, I have it at a 4:3, you can have it at 6:9, and then quality, I have it at medium. Okay, now in the parade, you're going to have all the channels. You have your Y, which is your luminance. You have your red, your green, and your blue channels. And from the bottom of the scope is telling you how dark the image is, and the top is telling you how white, and then all the information in between. So when I'm setting up these, I like to use the YRGB. You can also use the RGB, but this one also gives me luminance information as well. So what I'll do is I'll click show reference levels, and then I'll set my reference levels for the low to 64 and the high to 940. And what that does is it gives me right here and right here like indications that, hey, I'm gonna start clipping if I go past these. Okay, so just be careful. For my vector scope, when I set this up, I'm gonna raise the gradical. That just makes the information brighter, and then the vector scope makes the information brighter, and then the gradical makes the outside part of it brighter as well. You can choose your low, medium, high saturation levels. I just keep it at all, and then I also want to make sure I don't click 2x zoom because you'll get inaccurate information, so you'll turn that off. Now if you wanted to see something a little bit more in detail, you can click that on, but usually we just keep that off. And then I want to click my show skin tone indicator. This is going to tell me that this line is where my skin tones are, and if I have my dropper, I can go on her skin, and you can see right in the little box it's telling me where her skin tones is. So I want to make sure that it's falling on that line, so I can adjust her skin tones a little bit based off of this information here. So now we have our parade and we have our vector scope set up. We can now dive into actually color grading and setting everything up. Okay, so let's start with this first clip. We're going to come over to the post clip right here, and then we're going to verify that we have the film print that we want. So, film developer. So we have our Kodak Vision 50D, and what's really great about Dehancer is they have all these different film profiles that you can choose to. I believe there's about 60 of them. So if you have like a movie that you like that's really cool and you like the colors, you can just look it up and then come through here, scroll through, and then get that profile and build it. Okay, so we have that set, and in here what we can do is we can adjust the color boost. So let's say I wanted to add more saturation. I can do it here or bring it down. Oh, it's not enabled, so we'll enable that. So this is in our film developer. So if I wanted to add more saturation or color boost, I can do that. So we'll add it to a point where her skin isn't affected too bad. Off, on, and then we can adjust the skin tones after. And we have our color separation wheel. It's not really doing anything, so we'll double click, reset that. Gamma correction and contrast boost. If you wanted to add more contrast, you could, like so. And these just gives you ease of control where you can just make the adjustments here in the program itself. Okay, so we have our film profile added. So we did the Kodak Vision 3. Now we're gonna come over to the print, and then we can turn that off and on so you can see what it's doing. Okay, and then let's find the print. Went with the 2383, and then you can make adjustments here as you like. So we have the color density. We can add more. We can take away some, like so. We can the tonal contrast. We can adjust it like so. So it's just ease of control and just simplifies everything for you. So we have that set up. We already talked about the blacks, and then we talked about the effects. So now that we have all this set up, I'll go into my effects, and then I'll come down to my film compression. I'll turn that on, and as you can see, if you're looking at the scopes, it just lowers the highlights, so you have a better highlight roll off, which emulates film much more accurately. Okay, so we'll turn that on. Sometimes I'll keep it off if I don't like how much it's crushing um, the image, or you can also lower or increase the impact of it, like so. So we have that set up, and then I'll add the film grain and the halation and everything last. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the clip level, and I'm going to start making adjustments to my image here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go into my white balance, and then I'll look at my parade, and I can see that the image is a little bit red. So what I'll do is I'll come over here, and remember we changed it to linear, so what we'll do is we'll adjust it with our gain, and we'll just add the opposite into there. So we'll add in a little bit more blue, and then you can see like we cooled off the image just a little bit. Okay, so whatever color is dominating the image, you just add the opposite color, and that'll help you neutralize it. Okay, so we adjusted our white balance. Now we can go in and we can play with our exposure, but actually this exposure looks really good. Maybe I'll just bring down the highlights just a little bit, like so, to about right there, and then I'll open up the midtones like so, just playing with it, and then bring down the highlights just a little bit more. So we went from that to this, so it's just a little bit more brighter in there. Now contrast, I'll add just a little bit of contrast like so. So you just want to add and then remove if you have to. So yeah, we'll come back on the contrast just a little, like so. And then for saturation, we can also add a little bit of saturation because it's already popped quite a bit. So I like what it's doing to the dress, but I don't like what it's doing to her skin. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna back off to about 1, 0.05, and then I'll come into my color slice, and then I'll fix her skin tone. So I'll click this little button right here, and that isolates everything in her skin, right? So what I'll do is I'll just back the saturation off, and I'm looking at my vector scope, and I'm thinking, okay, that looks pretty good. So you see how her skin is like oversaturated, and then I brought it down and her skin looks much more natural. So that's a really good look. Hue versus saturation, I don't really need to do anything. Not quite yet. So what I'll do is I'll come in here, I'll make a window. I'll put the window around her just so I can get a little bit more separation, separating her from the background. And then I'll soften the edges, and I'll go to my outside node, and then I'll come in my gamma, and I'll start lowering it just so that she pops out more. And as you can see, I went from that to that, and it just brings our attention to her. And then I'll go into my inside, and then I'll just lift the midtones, making her a little bit brighter, like so. And if you don't want to see this, you can click right here and turn it off, or you can just click off to another node, and then you can click on and off so you can see what's going on. And then when it comes to sharpening, I'll come over here, and I'll go over to my blur, which is right here, and then I'll click over to right here, sharpening, and I'll bring that down to about 47. And when you do that, it just gives it this kind of like a digital look. So I'll come over to my midtones, and then I'll bring that down to about -10. So, and that'll just soften and take the edge off. Last node, what I can do is I can add some glow. So I'll type in GLOW into the search bar, GLOW, and I'll grab that, bring that onto my node, and I'm going to my shine threshold. I'm just going to bring that all the way down, and then I'm going to go to my advanced controls, and I'm going to change the composite type over to soft light, like so. And then I come down to my global blend, and I just back it all the way off, and then I slowly start adding in the glow to a point where I'm happy with it, like so. But what I'm noticing is right here, it's a little bit blown out, so we can turn that off, turn it back on, and you can see that when you add glow, it's going to increase the luminance of the image. So I'll just bring that down a little, like so. And I'll go back to my exposure wheel and bring down my highlights just a little bit more, like so. And go into my window, and I bring up my midtones just a little, like so. So there's more light on her. And maybe what I'll do is I'll make my window a little bit smaller, like so. Hit shift, bring it down like so. So it's not affecting the sky as much. And then I'll just track this window since there is movement in the shot, like so. Okay, so here we are, here we are. Okay, so I like the way this image looks, and I'll go on to the second image, which is this one, and it's a little bit different than this one, so I have to regrade it all together. Okay, so we already have everything set up because it's in the post clip. It's already set to a group, so that's the fun part about this. So now all we have to do is go in and make our adjustments onto the clip. So I'll bring up my exposure with my offset wheel to about right so, and then look at the white balance. I think it's a little bit blue, so what we'll do is we'll add a little bit more red into there just to balance it out. And you can see like the sky and the sand, like it got all the blue out of the sand, and now the sand actually looks like sand, so it looks like it was on the day we shot it. Okay, saturation, maybe I add a little bit just to get her dress to pop a little bit more. like so. Off, on. Yeah, her skin, you see it comes to life just a little bit, so I like that a lot. And then the color slice, I don't really see anything. Let's see, this door right here, I might want to increase the saturation in that door, so I'll come over to my color slice, and then it looks kind of cyan to me, so I'll click it. Yep, and I was right. I checked the highlight, and what I can do is I can just increase the saturation on that door just a little bit so it stands out a little bit more. And then we can look at the sky, which is probably a little bit blue, and we can add a little bit of saturation into the sky. And if you look at the image, you can see it's starting to fall apart just a little bit because we're kind of pushing the colors quite a bit. So we'll fix that at the end by adding some noise reduction. Okay, so if you zoom in to your screen and you want to get back quick, you just press the letter Z and it'll get you back there. Now let's create a window around her like so. Bring it out like so. Hit shift, bring it down like so, and then we'll track it after we add a little bit of softness to it like so. We'll go over to our track tab, tracker, boom, and then we'll come over and we'll lighten her up, add a little pop to her, and then we'll bring down the brightness outside of her like so. So now we went from that to that, and she kind of looks like a little bit more 3D, and you can't really see the transition. So that's what I like. Bring that over a little bit more like so. Now we'll retrack it. Good. Boom. Look at that. Beautiful. And look how quick that was. Like, it took a little bit of time setting up the groups and then having all the power grades already saved. It just sped up our workflow and everything is just so much faster. So we'll come to this other clip, and as we can see, like, it's pretty blown out. So let's go over to right here, and then we found out the issues that we were having with the CST, and the custom max output was all the way down, so it was causing the colors to be incorrect, the luminance to be incorrect. So we'll go in and we'll just start adjusting our exposure, fixing that, bringing it up a little like so, and then perhaps add a little bit more saturation like so. Yeah, I like that. And then we can play with our windows. So I feel like she's a little too bright there. Bring that down a little to about 2. And then outside. Yeah, the outside looks pretty good, not gonna lie. Yeah, I can bring it up just a little. So we'll bring that up to like a 2. Boom. -2. Okay, I'm very happy with that. Then the glow. Yeah, such a beautiful clip, man. Okay, so that one's taken care of. Then we'll come back to this one. And then we'll raise the exposure a little bit. Yeah, this one definitely needs more saturation. I'm gonna increase the contrast on this one though. Just open it up a little bit more, like so. And then we added the color slice in the door. We'll add a little bit more sat. Skin looks a little bit pale. Like so. Boom. Look at that beautifulness. And then the window. That's good to go. Good to go. Then we'll come here. And this is where we had some difficulties. Yeah, we'll just reset this exposure node. Bring it down. Let it offset a little. like so. Increase our contrast. So what's great is that as you progress doing this, you'll find like mistakes, and then you just have to troubleshoot, and then you can figure out where those mistakes are just with a little bit of trial and error. Add a little bit more saturation. Yes. Look how it's starting to pop. Like, it's just, yeah, amazing. The color slice. Bring her skin down just a little. A little warm. Not so much. Yeah, like it. Picasso. Yeah, we lightened her up like so. We darkened the background like so. Add a little light in her face like so. Absolutely beautiful. Now, we get to work on this beautiful clip right here. And what we'll do is we'll bring down our offset to about here. Boom. So nothing's clipping. And then I'm noticing that the white balance is a little bit off. So I'm going to come in here, going to add a little bit more blue. And if you look at the parade, you can see that the red channel is higher than the green and the blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue. And you see it coming down and lining up like so. But I do want it to be a little bit warm. So I got that fixed. And absolutely 100%. The subject needs to be brighter. So I want to preserve the images. I want to preserve the detail in the sky. So that's why I brought it down like that, but it definitely affected them. So what we can try to do is we can try to do a gradient. Let's see. So we'll do a gradient. Turn this around like so. Bring it up to about right there. Come on. Like so. And what we'll do is we'll bring up like that. And then I'll probably bring this up to right there so we can have the ground in front of them not affected too much. Let's see. Yes, yes. Look at that. Yes. Okay, I'll bring that up a little bit more. Like so. And then I want to make them brighter, so I'll add a window around them like so. And I'll soften it like so. Definitely got to track this one. So we tracked it, and then we'll just increase the midtones on them. Go to our log wheels, bring down the blacks. Her face is a little dark, huh? So we'll add a little window on her face. Boom. We'll track it. And then we'll just raise the exposure on her face just a little. Okay, cool. So we got that done. I want to bring down the highlights just a little bit, just to preserve a little bit more details in the sky, like so. And then because we did that, we're going to need to adjust them, make them a little bit brighter. Like so. And then we'll probably have to track this one so, and then we'll track it. Easy money. I think I'm seeing something. Nah, I saw it, but you did it. Barely see it. Okay, good. I feel like this image is a little bit flat and it needs a little bit more saturation. So what we'll do is we'll start pushing the saturation. Oh yes, look at it come to life. Look at it come to life. We'll do that. And then that affected her skin. So we'll have to go in and adjust the skin using the color slice. Isolate the skin. And then bring that down a little bit. Like so. Yes. So that definitely fixed the skin, and we still got the colors in the sky. Okay. Now we'll sharpen the image, just like the last. 47. Then midtone detail, -10. Okay, perfect. And now, when you want to like compare shots together to see that you have like something that's cohesive, what you can do is you can press Option Command W, and then you go up to these three little dots right here, split screen, and then selected clips, and then that'll bring up both of the clips side by side, and you can make them bigger like so, and then hit Command F, and as you can see, like the sky's a little bit brighter here, but that's okay because there's more clouds here. The dress looks the same. Nice, nice. His jacket's a little bit blacker here. So I could probably bring the blacks down or increase the blacks over here if I needed to. Let's see. Like so. And then we'll go to the blacks. Exposure. Like so. And just bring that up a little. Like that. And yeah, I like that a lot. Cool. So we went from that. Went from that to that, which is absolutely amazing in just a few steps. So, boom, boom. Yeah, and you can see a little bit of a hot spot right there. So I want to fix that. So we'll get out of there. Come back to window. And it's just a little hot. So we'll bring that down like so. Yep. Much more subtle. And then her face, need to bring that up more. And then we'll add another window. So you'll come up here to this little plus circle, boom, and then we'll put that one on his face. And we'll track him. Okay. And now we have light in their face. And you can't even tell. Perfect. Now here we are with this last one. This last one, we are going to need to bring up the exposure quite a bit. Like so, but not too far where we're breaking the image. So let's say right about there. And then We'll lower the highlights because it's super bright out. I'll bring the highlights down. And then we start to manipulate the image. So we'll bring down the highs a little bit more, open up the midtones. We can start to see her. Definitely got to bring down the shadows. Like so. Let's add a little bit of contrast. Stretch it out. Like so. Go back to exposure. Bring up the midtones. Like so. Let's scrub through the clip. Perfect. And then let's check remember the focus qualifier? We can check to see where her skin is at. Now, this is a dark scene, so usually you want the skin to be around anywhere from 50 to 70 IRE. Right now we're at about 38, 40 IRE, but it is a dark lit room, so yeah, we'll keep that into consideration. Let's add a little saturation. Feel like it's a little bit dark, so we're gonna push it, really pushing it. And then the issue here is that her skin is so similar to this door right here, so we might have issues with the skin. See, it brings the door. So what I can do, let's see, let's bring the skin down to a decent spot, to about right here. We'll turn that off. On. Yeah, it didn't really affect the door that much, huh? But what we can do is we can create a window. Yep, just around her, like so. Rotate it. Bring it down like so. Soften it, like so, and then track it. Oh, we gotta fix that a little. Maybe like so, so we get our whole body in there. So you could either do a window, or you can like select her skin, just her skin. So I can show you guys both those options. So we have this one right here. Take the loop off. I feel like that did such a great job where I'm not even, yeah. So we got like more sat in the wall, and then we control the saturation on our skin. So that's one option. Now another option would be, let's option S to create another node. Option copy, bring it over there, turn that off, and then what we'll do is we'll delete this tracking information, and we'll delete this mask right here. Boom, like so. And what we'll do is we'll get the qualifier. So we'll find I think right here is good. We'll go to our dropper, our qualifier, and then we'll hit Shift H to bring up our highlights, and then we'll start selecting her skin, and then we'll adjust the range of the colors that we want. So we're just isolating her skin only, like so. Okay, and then we can play with the luminance, like so. Nice. Saturation. No, we don't want to touch that. Bring maybe this end in. Yeah, there we go. Like so. And then we'll just clean up the blacks. Clean up the whites. We'll denoise it. Like so. Yep. Let's play with this threshold a little bit more. No, I like it like that. Just finesse it nice and yep. The gradient, like so. Okay, and now we have a pretty decent qualifier where we isolated her skin. perfectly, and we didn't affect the wall. So you have two ways of doing it. You can isolate the skin that way, or you can create a power window. Let's see which one looks better. They both look pretty good. Yeah, I feel like the window might have been a little bit easier, but it's always good to have multiple tools in your toolkit. So now you know how to isolate skin with a window and how to isolate skin with a qualifier. Boom. And now we can bring up all these clips. Option Command W, and we can play them. And we have some beautifully graded clips. Yeah. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. Okay, cool. Now, let's go over some things that you need to go over, like when you first get Dehancer, okay? So you're gonna wanna check profiles, click that button, and then it's gonna check right here, and it's gonna make sure everything is good, and you can download all the film profiles and the cameras and the print medias, whatnot. So you'll just click that little feature right there, and then that'll give you in your source file. You can either use Rec 709 or you can choose the camera that you shot on. So they have a bunch of built-in different cameras, Sony, and then you can pick the type Alpha 1. And the reason I picked Rec 709 is because on our post clip, the CST already took it out of DaVinci wide gamut and put it into Rec 709. So everything past this node right here is going to be Rec 709. Now, if I put my Dehancer before here and I got rid of the CST node, or I got rid of it, then I could select the camera. But I just like setting it up with the CSTs. One more thing is we never went over effects. Some cool effects that I like to use is the film grain. And for the film grain, the lower the number, the more grain you get. And then the higher the number, the less grain you get. And also, you want to take into consideration the ISO. So the lower your ISO, the lower the grain you'll have, and then the higher the ISO, the higher grain you'll have. So I like to come around, let's say like a 35 millimeter 50 ISO, like so. Or like if I want a lot less, I'll go to my 65 millimeter 50 ISO, and then you can lower it. So this is your blend. This is the halation, sorry. So with the film grain, you can add the amount more or less, like so. And reset that. Reset that. So I like 65 right about there. And I feel like the film grain is super nice. And when it's time to export, you want to come down here and change your quality from normal fast to high slow, and then you'll export. But when you're editing, you want to make sure that it's in normal fast so it doesn't slow down your computer too much. So we have the film grain. We also have bloom, which is a huge one. This one's absolutely amazing. Like I put it on my workout videos, and the lights in the gym, it just gives it this nice subtle cinematic feel to it. And it's the same thing. You can choose the focal length. I like the 65-70, and then you can just amplify less or more. Another cool one is the halation, like so, and you can see around the edges of their skin is a nice little orangey glow, like very reminiscent of like old cinematic movies. And Dehancer definitely does this really well. So if you want a little bit less, you can just bring it down like so, or amplify it. You always want to make it look like you didn't really do anything, and that's how you get the best images. And we turn that off and on. Right here, I think it's a little bit strong. I would use it more for like indoor shots. So we'll turn that off. And then there's a whole bunch of other features that I don't really use, like film breath, gate weave, overscan. You can add vignettes like that. But we already added our own vignette, so I don't need to do that. And then you have like monitoring tools like false color, so you can see like the luminance values of your image. That's very handy. Clipping information, you can see in highlighted in blue, like these parts there's no information, so everything looks pretty good. The highlights aren't blown out, the blacks aren't blown out, so that's pretty good. And then you can also create like a LUT generator where you can export the look that you just created. And that's about it for Dehancer. So very awesome program. You can go to www.dehancer.com, and you can come right here and you can see that it also works in different programs, not just DaVinci Resolve, but Final Cut, After Effects, Premiere Pro, Photoshop, Lightroom, all that stuff. So yeah, you can even apply Dehancer to your images in Photoshop, which gives you that really cool cinematic feel to it. Just gives that emotion, okay? And I really love color grading because I can't draw. And this is the closest thing I can get to being an artist, like creating that emotion from the feel of the video. And it's so cool because you can create emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, all that stuff just by color grading a clip in a certain way, which is just beautiful. Okay, and then another great feature about Dehancer, let's say you don't edit on a computer, you edit on your phone. There's also an iOS app that you can use where you can download the Dehancer app and edit your photos and videos through your mobile device. So it's a really versatile feature that helps to speed up your workflow and give you high quality looking, professional looking footage. So for the plans and pricing, you can do a monthly subscription where individual photos 29, individual photo and videos 59. If you're a business, it's 99 a month, or you can do it annually and save a little bit more where you're only paying $11 a month, but it's billed annually 25 or 49. And then you can also do lifetime where it's $5.99. You just pay it once and it's yours. And if you use the code KingQ, you can get 10% off. So that's an awesome way to save money and create cinematic looking images that's going to help elevate your production and possibly your business. So thank you for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll get right to it for you.